found when I got on air, they ran. I was running 24,000th place out of 50,000 books on Amazon, and when I went on the air with Coast to Coast, it jumped to 24th place. But nobody could buy a copy because one person bought all of the copies Amazon had. And then somebody started advertising that they had a used copy they wanted to sell for something like $56. It was $14 when it was new.
Uh-huh.
And so all kinds of people started selling their copies for $30, $35, and somebody was buying those up.
Even at that rate?
Even at that rate. Well, the reason why is in the back there's a list of 400
Uh-huh.
or 250, something like that, CIA fronts. So I think that's why they vanished. That was all public domain information, but nobody had ever put it into a single source.
See, and I think that's the key, and that's something that I, hopefully try and strive for on the website is, this is all open source information. I'm just hopefully putting it in a better context that maybe makes a little more sense in 1, 2, 3.
Right, and that's why I now have my own publishing outfit, and I do what's called print-on-demand technology. It makes the books more expensive, but they can buy all they want. I'll make more.
Exactly. Made to order.
And to get even with them for that, my latest book is the Professional Paranoid Defensive Field Guide. It's really a resource information. It's not the title's a little bit of a misnomer, but there's 1,000 CIA fronts listed.
Are there, I believe there are, in the book that we have right here, there are some that connect to right here in Oregon and Portland.
Yes, my friends, I call them.
Evergreen is...
Oh, Evergreen is too easy. I mean, even the Oregonian out at Evergreen, it's sort of a public relations thing for them, I think, to be associated with the agency. What I really like is the little secret underground tunnel that runs across the highway. So if Evergreen wants to bring somebody into the country from the Pacific Rim, they don't have to go through customs or anything. And anybody who, like, say, a KGB agent, that's going back to the Cold War, but, a foreign country that might know they're a CIA front and be expecting them to be smuggling somebody in, could be watching their facility and not see them exit.
Well... Geez, what other shady, literally underground things do we have here in our own backyard?
One of the firms that I mentioned has an underground facility, and they're building this kind of interesting. They have an elevator in a one-story building.
Which sounds like a mistake or like a screen door on a battleship, but...
Right, and they were tied to the PAMCO thing. You remember PAMCO, Pacific Aircraft Maintenance Company? That's a particularly Portland ripoff that involved CI proprietaries. They were supposedly going to refurbish C-130s to be firefighting bombers, but there were no C-130s except for the ones that Evergreen was selling to third countries illegally. And or using in their own covert operations, including one assassination. Not to say that Evergreen was the assassinator, but in any event, is that a word?
I think it is now. Assassin.
In any event,
that's all right. I said donator on the show a few weeks ago, and someone was like, "I think donor is the word you want."
Or donatee, donator. Yeah. So we have our own little things going on here. This is kind of a hotbed, actually. Bonneville Power is very tied to CIA, as is Pacific Corp. And Pacific Corp invests heavily in PAMCO. They were chief architects of the Bonneville Power Administration. You talked about whoops earlier.
Oh, yeah. That's right, when we were going to get into that a little bit.
Yeah. I even Fatal Rebirth is a book that starts in 1947 and goes forward all the way into the future about what happened. Basically, it's about the New World Order taking over.
Well, and 47 is sort of ground zero.
National Security Act.
Exactly.
Like the switch that turned everything on.
Isn't it also the beginning of the Nation of Israel also?
It's right in that time frame, and there's some interesting ties there. But the thing about Whoops is in my book, Fatal Rebirth, I make predictions. It is the book that foretold terrorism bringing down the twin Trade Center towers by jet airliner and resulting in Middle East oil wars. It was responsible for predicting an assassination attempt on Ross Perot, driving him out of the election, which took place, and it was a mailed anthrax attack. And I also predicted that...
was that the 96? Or was that his first run in 92?
Against
Perot?
Clinton. Basically, it'd be the 96.
Okay, because that was the one where he was in and then mysteriously dropped out and made vague references.
During the Colorado primary, and he won that primary, that would have put him on the ballot. And the other thing that I've predicted in that book is that we would have some missing rods from Whoops, because the CIA proprietary basically took that operation over and partnered immediately with Islamic interests.
Well, I was going to glance back here at Google News to see, but now that story's been bumped. I don't see it at the top of the page. So let's search. I believe FedEx was the keyword. So, okay, here it is, 1 hour ago from Fox News. FedEx searching for radioactive shipment that vanished between North Dakota and Tennessee. So, first, let me guess. This is coming from Minot.
Big SAC base there that's been shut down and is now overrun with men in black.
And so, again, tell folks now that we kind of got them up to speed on now breaking news here as we sit November 26th, FedEx looking for missing radioactive rods. How specifically did you touch on this?
Well, in my book, Fatal Rebirth, understand it's a fictional story. It's like a docudrama trying to portray how history probably truly evolved, not what the headlines told us. And when you have a docudrama, you have a set of facts, and you could write them as factual in like an expose form, but certain things could get you killed. But in a fictional form, you have some license. I can use, for example, composite characters, the real-world people, to become instruments to explore the story. And in order to make it useful, though, for somebody who wants to know the truth and to be able to judge whether the fictional story is true or the media story is true or some point in between, I have 1,500 plus footnotes, and it is the footnotes basically that touched on the Whoops matter.
And I would just quickly note for folks, a probably good example of composite character in a film that, again, relates to things that we've been talking about here would be the Mr. X, Donald Sutherland character in Oliver Stone's JFK. He was a composite of, among other folks, Colonel L. Fletcher Prouty.
Right, and Prouty liked my book.
Oh wow!
I was just shocked when he actually contacted me. The thing about Fatal Rebirth is, I would really like everybody to read it because it is a real eye opener. I have not yet had anyone read it and say you're full of crap. And so what I want to do for your listeners is, if anybody will email me at ppbbooks.com, ppbbooks@comcast.net. I will tell you how to get a copy. It's a 4-volume book. They're like $37.50 a copy for the hard copy. But I have a CD-ROM version.
Oh.
I have ebook versions. I'll make the ebook versions available for $5 a piece.
Excellent.
They're normally I think $12 or something.
So we'll include that in the show notes for this interview. And again, also your website, proparanoidpress.com. So that's the 3 P's there, Pro Paranoid Press.
It's for people who like to.
which again, with my little crappy microphone here, I have to be very careful about my plosive P's. So let's perhaps shift gears slightly, and let me ask you about, because as we see, it's now on the top of Google News, this imminent release of the latest document dump from WikiLeaks. What's your take on WikiLeaks and what the battle has now become about, even some folks saying that, now they're just a cutout or a conduit?
Well, there is an aspect to that. I don't think I'm particularly qualified to comment the way you've framed the question. It's not an area that I've really jumped into.
Okay.
But there is one aspect that ties to your question in a way maybe you didn't expect. And that is there is coming very soon an assault on free speech. People like you and I will be shut down. And we'll have WikiLeaks as a whipping boy for that. You talk about a false flag operation. We could theorize that WikiLeaks leaked that information in order to be a stepping stone type, false flag type operation to excuse
a wider crackdown.
A wider crackdown. There has already been one attempt in Congress to pass legislation that would pretty much make you and me terrorists. And technically we already are. I mean, by definition, the definition is so broad, anybody is a terrorist that they want to be a terrorist.
Because if we're even here essentially questioning government policy.
Exactly. So, that would we're looking for legislation that would empower them to shut us down.